Welcome, welcome. We will get started in about 2 minutes. We're so glad you're here. While you're waiting, if you could use the chat to introduce yourself, we want to know who's here. So if you could share your name, your role, the district you're from, and your state. We will be leveraging the chat a lot today to make sure this is as interactive as possible. So if you could take advantage of that chat feature now to introduce yourself, that would be beautiful. And then again, we'll start in about a minute and a half. Wow, we've got fun folks dialing in from all over the place. South Carolina, Alabama, Pennsylvania. So glad you all are here. We even have a recording bot. That was a joke. Couldn't help myself. Thank you for getting my humor, Andrea. Okay, we've got so many people dialing in right this second that I'll wait a couple more minutes or a couple more moments before we get started. But again, introduce yourself in the chat if you're just now arriving. So fun. I love this. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. A quick note about how this session is going to work. Because this is a webinar, all of our attendees are muted and off camera. So you've probably noticed that already, but wanted you to be aware. We definitely encourage you to participate though. So if you have questions, please submit them using the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And then throughout the session, as I already mentioned, you'll have plenty of opportunity to engage using chat and even a few quick poll questions. We're really glad you're here. So with that, let's get started. Good morning and welcome. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us today. We are really proud that we have brought together district leaders from urban, suburban, and rural communities across the country, and we've brought them together to discuss one of the most pressing challenges facing our schools right now. Across grade levels, we are seeing an increasing number of students who have not yet developed the foundational skills needed to access instruction and truly learn how to learn. For some of these students, these needs emerge in early childhood, as we know, but for others, they surface later after years of inconsistent access to academic readiness and communication skills. Leaders are being asked to respond earlier and more consistently, often while navigating staffing strain, family pressure, and difficult placement conversations. So today's conversation is focused on leadership level shifts that have helped districts strengthen early skills systems, improving instructional consistency, increasing teacher effectiveness, and reducing reactive decision making. As you listen, we will suggest chat conversation prompts to share what is currently creating the most strain in your system, and we'll be able to bring those common themes into the discussion as we move forward. So let's begin with a poll. You guys ready? What is currently creating the most strain in your special education or early childhood system? These are themes that we hear most frequently, right? Staffing shortages and teacher turnover, budget constraints, an increasing number of students with high needs, and also out of district placements. We'll give you about 15 more seconds to respond to the poll. Hopefully everyone's navigating that smoothly. Penny, are you able to share the poll results? Or can you tell us how they turned out?
Yes, I can. So we
Yay.
have, let's see, some people are still answering. We have 31 of you have answered. We have 20 of 31 are saying an increased number of students with high needs. Our second one is staffing shortages and teacher turnover, and I think I can post this here,
Yay. Gotta love Zoom.
right? Well, you might just have to take my word for it, Carrie.
Okay, we are a trusting crowd today, so you're in luck. Okay, with that, I would love to introduce our panelists. We are so proud to have brought this group together. Monica, could you kick us off with introductions, please?
Sure. I'm Monica Waltman. I'm the Director of Special Services at Douglas School District in Box Elder, South Dakota. We are right outside the second largest city in South Dakota, which probably would make people laugh, but our student total in our district is about 2,700 with 500 or so on child count. And interestingly enough, 19% of those have autism.
Wow, thanks, Monica. I appreciate that. Josie, could you go next, please?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Josie Achenbach. I am a special education coordinator with Indianapolis Public Schools. Indianapolis Public Schools is the biggest district in the state. We serve approximately 31,000 students. I support a community of elementary schools, preschoolers through fifth graders.
Thank you, Josie. Pam, would you mind introducing yourself?
Good morning,
Good
everyone.
morning.
My name is Pamela Wimbish. I am the Director of Special Education for Birmingham City Schools, Birmingham, Alabama. We are one of about three of the largest school districts in the state. Student population around 19,000. Our special education population around 2,800. Have a large preschool population of students with disabilities. And I welcome everyone to our roundtable this morning.
Thank you, Pam. I appreciate that. Dr. Missy Brooks? Oops,
I was muted. So I'm Missy Brooks, and I work in Mountain Brook Schools, Director of Instruction and Special Education, which is all things teaching and learning in our district. We are a suburb of Birmingham City, a small suburb. We have about 4,400 students and about 580 special ed students from pre-K all the way, to beyond.
Thank you. Claire?
Good morning. My name is Claire Jones-Moore, and I'm Executive Director of Hoover City Schools. Hoover City Schools is in the state of Alabama. I am south of Birmingham and Mountain Brook. I looked this morning, we have 1857 for our total special education population, and we're around 14,000 with our student body. And I'm proud to be here today.
We are so grateful you're here. Thank you. Thank you. And Olivia, will you bring it home?
Hey, I'm Olivia Pope. I am the Special Education Program Specialist for Mountain Brook Schools. As Missy just talked through about where we are right outside of Birmingham, and excited to be here this morning.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I think that provides nice context to our attendees
And
as they
Tara
listen.
Geiser, could you go next?
Thank you,
Yeah.
Tara.
Yes. Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm Tara Geiser with Walton County School District in Georgia. We are a medium-sized district here in Georgia. I have about 15,000 students total, and of those, 2,000 receive special ed services. As the special ed director, I also oversee MTS System 504, so it's made it a very comprehensive system for us here.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. We are honored that each of you are taking time out to be here today. I'm Dr. Carrie Stubbs. I represent the Stages Learning team, and I'm honored to chat with you and moderate this insightful conversation. So thank you again for being here. I think our first question, we'll just start with the broader picture. Sound good? This first question, I'm going to tee up to Monica and Claire, if you can kind of be ready with your thinking caps on. Before becoming an ARIS district and strengthening your approach to foundational skills, I'm curious, what were the most common factors driving out of district placements in your two districts? Monica, could you go first?
Yes, I would say we're new in the ARIS realm. We really have been focused on the kids that are spending more time in the general curriculum, and now we've dialed in for our students with disabilities that are spending their time in self-contained settings. And so that's where we really started noticing that students that ended up that are in those programs, as time went on, they had some compounded foundational skill gaps because we didn't really have anything for the teachers in those rooms. They kind of were left out of curriculum adoptions and things like that. And when, modifying things and pulling things off of different places was creating some foundational skill gaps for kids. And then as time went on, those just were worse as they got to middle school and high school. Some behavior issues that were probably rooted in communication and academic frustration was an issue. And again, the behavior is a communication, but when we are not really sure what the source of it is because we don't have a shored up program option for them, I think that became an issue. And then just inconsistency across buildings and classrooms. Again, because these teachers have primarily been left on their own to figure out what to do for students and didn't have a real structure. You have some really go-getters that knew what to do and some that kind of floundered. So I would say sometimes those classrooms looked more like a daycare to say really, because there wasn't a lot of structure. So before that, we just had a lot of just inconsistency. So I would just say these kids in their instructional isolation were really struggling, and that ended up just being a compounded issue over the years as they passed from program to program.
Thank you. That's really helpful. And I'm taking a ton of notes. So thank you for sharing. Claire, we would love to hear, what's happening in Hoover City Schools, please.
One of the things that we have really experienced in Hoover Cities, particularly since COVID times, it's 2020, is the explosion of our students, particularly our early learners coming to school. They had all the time at home, but it just led to so many gaps in their learning. We struggled as a district because of the explosion of the students and the families that were moving to Hoover City to really serve those students in a consistent manner. When I first heard about ARIS from a neighboring district, I was so excited to hear of the language enriched pieces that ARIS offers, and then just to have the amazing support from the stages of learning staff. It helped us create more of a community among our teachers. We were also experiencing new teacher growth. So this allowed us to have consistency across the board. This is actually our third year. So we are so excited to really begin to see those benefits among our staff and our students. It's just been an amazing experience, and that continuity for our students and our teachers it's been amazing.
So it's interesting. I'm hearing both of you bring up issues related to consistency in being a large factor driving out of district placement. So
yes,
I'm curious in the chat if that is something you're sensing as well. And while I stay in this kind of big picture set of questions, Josie and Tara, if you could be thinking about what foundational skill domains did you realize needed more systematic and earlier attention to prevent later escalation? And Josie, do you want to go first? So what foundational skill domains did you realize needed more systematic and earlier attention to prevent later escalation?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
So in IPS, we really wanted to consider planning for our earliest learners coming through our programs for our young children evaluation team and the special education services they would be receiving within our developmental preschools. While those preschool programs aren't in every elementary building, those students are rising into our kindergartens across our 53 elementary schools in the district. And so those early learning skills are essential to build off of. Within the context of our pilot with Eris, we looked at the essential elements for implementation within those classrooms. And even within a semester, we saw such significant growth in all areas, but particularly in assessments and preferences and reinforcers that we were able to, build off of for our students and create a stronger foundation for a full implementation after that pilot. I mentioned our evaluation team, and we also trained those team members who are evaluating students coming out of First Steps, our 3-year-olds, our family call-ins, with the lens of that curriculum, and that has really helped support the alignment in the IEP development, service recommendations, and goals for our earliest learners.
Thank you, Josie. That's really insightful. Thank you. Thank you. Tara, we would love to hear about what's happening in Walton County. If you could share.
Sure. Well, it sounds like Josie and I are doing some similar things.
I
We
love
rolled
that.
out in collaboration with one of our private schools, actually here in Walton County, who serves only students with special needs, Eris in our preschool classes across the district, and then with the private school in our adapted classes. And when we polled the teachers to kind of determine what were some of those foundational skills they really were struggling to address, of course, functional communication came up. It was heavily documented that the lack of communication directly correlated to the behavior concerns we were seeing. And then also that emotional regulation piece. Just knowing that without that early intervention, the sensory overload just becomes so much, and we see more meltdowns, and then embedding those sensory tools. And then lastly, the executive functioning piece that we're seeing predominantly in our classrooms right now, especially with most of our students being students with autism. And so just making sure that we're providing systematic ways to prevent those shutdowns with those bigger tasks, and then working on, their working memory and just overall cognitive flexibility.
Thank you so much. And I love that both of you did such a beautiful job of capturing a systemic, big reflection piece. I think when I talk to districts across the country, it's sometimes hard to get to the big picture. What trends are we seeing across the district? So thanks so much for sharing that insight. Okay, if you don't mind, I think we'll move into implementation. Rachel was kind enough to add a prompt in the chat. So if you haven't yet had a chance to respond as you're listening, we really are curious what foundational gaps you are seeing most often across grade levels in your districts, so that we can both listen and also include you in our chat conversation. But now we're going to move into implementation. Fun, love it. So our first question here is, what structural changes did your district make to ensure foundational skills were actually being addressed more consistently across classrooms or grade levels? And for this question, I think I'll kick it off with Pam, but then Missy and Olivia, you'll be on deck to go next. Does that sound okay? So Pam, kick us off.
Yeah, I think a lot of you hit some of the highlights with that, but for us specifically, it was just ensuring that we had the capability of having tiered intervention. With us having so many early learners coming in with a lot of skill gaps, additionally, a lot of developmental gaps, us looking at areas was around how do we target those things in a systematic and strategic way, so that we can build those foundational skills. I know that all of the school districts are experiencing accountability with testing and test scores and things of that nature. So it's important for us to target our early learners. Children in our district, we're fortunate to have a large pre-K program in our state in Alabama. So that means that we do get the opportunity to see our students much earlier. However, do we have those resources and tools for teachers to be able to implement and provide strategic intervention for those students, especially in those areas of developmental needs that they just have that haven't been met? So that's the structurally for us is just being able to have different tiered levels of intervention tools for teachers to use. And also with us having so many novice special educators in our school, ARIS is just one of those programs that can be implemented, whether it's with the paraprofessional, whether it's the certified teacher, or our teachers that are in our temporary certification programs. And so having all of that embedded coaching and training come into the school districts has just been game changing for us. So we've seen a really good implementation just based on the support that we've received from ARIS. But also is an opportunity for nuanced educators to learn. How do I target communication? How do I target executive functioning, which most people don't really know what that really truly is. So the program just allows for a lot of on-site and embedded coaching and learning for our educators as well.
Thank you, Pam. That was really helpful. Wonderful. I love that you leaned into the, we meet kids where they are, but we also have to meet those teachers where they are as we are supporting their growth. So thank you. Missy, do you need me to refresh the question or are you good?
Yeah, I'm good. So,
okay, awesome. Thank you, Dr.
some of the
Brooks.
structural changes that we've made here in Mountain Brook, we started just in our preschools, and we do have a preschool in every elementary school that we have, and 2 in some of them. So we found, like everybody has mentioned, after COVID, just the incidence of lack of foundational skills has really increased in our younger kiddos. And so we were really looking for something and discovered ARIS and purchased it for each of our preschools. And so we started using it with them and really saw a lot of progress. Another thing that we have done is we established district-wide PLCs. So once a month, our pre-K teachers come in and meet. As a matter of fact, they're meeting this afternoon. And they talk about the things so that we are moving forward as a district with the same vision. Additionally, I would say another structure is as we saw the growth of students as they matriculated to kindergarten and now even all the way through our junior high, we use the program with even students that don't have autism, but may have some very weak communication skills and things like that, that we're able to carry on. And it is definitely structurally, we're growing that piece in our district.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I appreciate the insight on, how important it is to have a consistent program and one that targets these early foundational skills. Thank you. Thank you. And Olivia.
Yeah, just to add on to what Missy talked about, I do think we've seen, with starting out just the pre-K, the growth that was made there, that we have added that into our AAA classrooms, and building that in based on the students' needs. And why I love the program is that it truly does target areas that maybe those prerequisite skills, those classroom readiness skills that learners may be missing to be able to learn and get that content in a regular gen ed classroom. So I do think it's a great tool that we've been able to utilize in that way. I also think a big thing that we have really focused on this year is providing that strategic time for professional development with those grade levels that are utilizing this. So being able to have that time that they can practice and get feedback and collaborate together. So really being strategic in how you structure your PD time so that it's beneficial and you're providing those resources for those teachers.
Thank you so much. I love that you both brought up, meeting teachers and the training aspects. And Pam also referenced coaching. So with that, let's talk about impact on educators specifically. Does that sound good? So next conversation topic for us to chew on. How has having a more consistent instructional approach influenced teacher confidence or effectiveness, right? Because they're both key components of this big riddle when supporting students with similar needs. And for this, I think we'll lean into insight from both Pam and Josie. Pam, could you kick us off?
I can. What I've seen, especially looking at our district data, a lot of teachers, as a special educator, all of us, we know that sometimes you feel like you don't get enough wins. But one thing I've seen with this program, the teachers are really excited when they see students grow. When you have a structured way to provide intervention and provide instruction, and you have those data points that you can review it's very rewarding when you see that now that a child has gained a skill. And that's just the thing about special education. When we see wins, it really kind of gets in our heart. And so I think that one of the things I've seen with the teachers, they're just excited to see student growth. And we can look at the data points ourselves as the directors and coordinators, but when we are able to articulate, when teachers can articulate that they've actually saw a child be able to do a skill that they started off the school year not being able to do, I think that's game changing for us. And our student growth has really been phenomenal with utilizing the program.
Amazing. And particularly when it comes to your essential elements, right? If you could tell us a little bit more about that.
Say that one more time. I'm sorry.
The essential elements that your
Yes,
teachers have shown
yes,
growth across.
absolutely. I talk with Rachel all the time, and sometimes they'll just send me our district data and go, look at how these children are growing. And it's one of those things I think with Eris, bringing it into our district, there was this thing that what do we do with our children with autism? And those are those key components that those children, those skills that they have to have in order to just be able to be functional. So it's critical that all educators understand that as long as they are struggling in a lot of those areas, they won't be able to have gainful engagement in general ed curriculums in other areas outside of just if they're in self-contained. But I heard that someone else mentioned that we're also using the program with children that are not in self-contained because they still have a lot of those skill gaps, even though they're not identified with autism. So we're just seeing a lot of growth in that area. And I think it's also just making sure that it's a program that teachers can really buy into and understand and implement. And so I think that has been a positive piece for us as well, because it's one of those things that as long as you're implementing it, you're going to see the growth of the students. And so the coaching and all of that just has afforded us to be able to do that.
Thank you, Pam. I appreciate that. Josie, if you could add your texture and insight and expertise, we'd appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks, Pam. I love to hear about those wins.
Me too.
When we're thinking about a more consistent instructional approach within IPS, we lean really heavily on our coaching framework that's been developed across both general education and special education teachers and coaches, so that we have an aligned support system in our elementary buildings. The PLC structures really provide a lot of support for our teachers, grounding in that data and a jumping off point for coaching cycles to work on individually. Our coaches have been trained in our curriculums, and Eris included, and they're able to really come alongside teachers to problem solve and implement, which really ultimately builds trust and accountability with one another. Our teachers are building a lot of confidence in their instruction and data analysis, and especially in a space where there are so many transition possibilities for students in developmental preschool, depending on their age, depending on, next steps and their skills. We're able to make those decisions in a more data-informed way.
I love that. And I love that you touched on the importance of truly training the full set of human resources that are surrounding each child to create wins. And Pam, my goodness, when you were talking about, teachers seeing the wins, isn't that why we all ultimately went into education? Like you gave me goosebumps, genuinely. I love it. So thank you both for sharing that. I really appreciate that. Staying in this same category, I'm curious, this is for Olivia and Monica. Have you observed any changes in student progress once early skill instruction became more aligned or systematic across your settings? And Olivia, if you could go first.
Yes, we've seen significant growth in that area. And it's always super rewarding, for us to see who are not in the classroom every day, but also for those teachers to see. Because I think a big piece of that is it gives teacher buy-in and paraprofessional buy-in on implementing these systems and being very strategic with that because they're seeing it as a win as well as the students. And then being able to help generalize those skills and use it across the environment has been huge. So not just the data portion, but also seeing them be happier and being able to, regulate emotionally better and use those social skills and improve on the functional communication piece has been huge for us.
Thank you. That's Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Monica.
I would echo what Olivia shared, and I think we spend a lot of time. We've spent a lot of time talking about, you know, doing school is a whole bunch. If you did a task analysis of a day of school of what all the things you have to do to just do school without the academic piece, we talk about that. That requires a ton of skill, but sitting, attending, following direct, those kinds of things. And when we started, we finally had a program that we could say, this is what I'm talking about. These are the developmental levels of things that we're talking about that we can work through so that by the time they get to kindergarten, because we too are really pushing a focus on our early intervention as well, right? That we just know that's best and putting a lot of time and dollars and people into that. And they said, this is what you mean when you say doing school. Yes, all those little gears there. They have to be able to do a lot of those skills in those gears before you can get to the reading and math part. So it's been really great for our teachers to say, okay, that's great that I know that those skills are necessary, especially executive functioning and skills like that they can be taught. But how? Now we've answered the how. So that's been so fantastic. It's quick, rather than spending tons of time in training. It's ready to use. And like somebody mentioned, a paraprofessional can do it, and you can really keep the foot on the gas for those little people in those developmental domains.
Yeah, and to your point about keeping the foot on the gas to those littles, I always worry about the littles that don't have a system in place when they're littles, since this is a compounding issue. So thanks for bringing that forward. And another thing that's just coming through all this conversation is how interwoven teacher success is with student success, right? And providing opportunities for teachers to experience that moment of joy and that aha moment. And by teachers, I mean, paraprofessionals, BCBAs, OTPT, speech language, like our whole crew. We all want the wins. And being able to see that student progress is so closely tied to that teacher growth and progress and competence. So thank you for that. A quick chat prompt for those of you reflecting and chewing on the insight that our panelists are sharing. We're curious where you see the greatest variability across your classrooms when you're supporting similar student needs as what our panelists are discussing. So please add that in the chat. We appreciate your voice and your insight as well. Okay, so we're gonna take another little, verbal turn signal over to team decision making, right? Okay, so first question here, and Tara, I'm gonna have you take this first, and then Claire will be on deck for this. How have IEP or problem-solving meetings changed when teams have greater clarity around what skills need to be developed and how to teach them?
Yes, and I was noticing in the chat several people had noted the growth of programs and the need for additional services. And so when we implemented ARIS in our pre-K classes, it was 80% of our teachers were brand new. And so when you think about
80% were brand new.
Yes.
Whoa, I'm letting that sink in. Oh.
So
Okay,
the
keep
training
going.
component, yeah, is massive. And so I have to give kudos to Eris because the coaching that's provided is beyond impressive and has made such a difference. And specifically related to IEP development and problem solving, we've just seen that our teachers feel better prepared for their meetings. Two, it's been able to give them better insight for present levels and kind of identify those splinter skills, so that they can then determine, what kind of goals they need to create and all of those components. But I also like the curriculum data because it's been very helpful for our little people to determine placement. That tends to be, a lot of those kids in our full day preschool are immediately considered for adapted, and we've really tried to retrain our staff about looking more at different options. And so that's really helped with conversations that are more around not so much emotions, but evidence. And then two, not what the students can't do, but more of what their needs are. So that's a lot of what we've been seeing over here.
Nice. I love that framing, right? Not what they can't do, but what their needs are.
Absolutely.
Thank you. It's a beautiful way to honor these kids. Claire, could you also respond, please?
Yes, so we're very similar to Tara. One of the things that we have been able to do with, so we also had large turnover, probably very close to that 80%, Tara. And that makes it so difficult as a district because just as you have everybody prepared and ready for the next year, there's a change in staff. But what we have found so successful in our preschool program, and I think has really paid great dividends for us forward, is that we were able to divide out our preschool a little bit more into more of a functional skill type class. We now have classes that are divided out, which helps us on the front end when we're talking with our parents about placements, because those are crucial and critical conversations. But what's more important when we're having those conversations with our parents is to make sure that we are talking the same common language to our parents so that they understand. And then meeting with our schools that the kiddos will be, because we do not have preschool in every, we have 11 elementary schools. We do not have preschool in every school setting. We have actually 6 preschool classrooms. So having that common language with our receiving based schools is so critical. I do think that we've been able to partner with our community outreach programs, particularly with a specific program in the Birmingham area called Glenwood. We've partnered with them and invited them to attend our professional development for our teachers. So that's really helped in having common language throughout. So the placement piece and the conversations and using that data has been very important in the development of the expectations of the receiving schools, the parents, and the staff.
Okay, so the combination of your answers is wanting me to sneak in a bonus points question, if you don't mind.
Sure. Sure.
Tara and Claire both. When I was saying in my introduction, our goal is to get past reactive decisions, right? Like, I don't know football well, I pretend. But if you think about offense and defense, right? So from a leadership standpoint, how meaningful has this shift been in reducing that habit of reactive decisions? And, both Tara and Claire, if you could offer
Tara, I can jump in real quick.
Great.
One of the things that we were able to do this past year is really budget a really good amount for professional development, which allowed us to pull in our community partners. I think that has been very instrumental in helping our parents come along beside us as we're talking about potentially placements that could lead to alternative standards. To have those discussions and to have that crucial conversation with parents, the data that we are able to share in the common language, I think I mentioned that before, that helps us when we're making all these great decisions that help inform us in the IEP process.
Thank you. That's really helpful. Tara?
Yeah, and I was just going to add, I think for us, it's been a lot of, it's helped teachers pause and not jump to some decisions that I think previously may have been the easier route. So now they can see that although a lot of our students we're serving are nonverbal, absolutely. When you take out that language component though, and the way that ARIS has created the materials, you can really see what the students know versus what they're not able to verbally communicate. And so that's been able to help, same as Claire was saying, our parents also see that. So for us, it's just been a big eye opener and a way for them to pause and kind of look at some things differently, and give our students more opportunities because especially with your little people, they change so much year to year.
Right.
And that's what we've really tried to look at here is not everybody needs to be on our alternate assessment. Not everyone needs to be in an adapted setting and trying to get them to kind of retrain their brains. And so for us, that's been the biggest impact. But I agree, Claire, with what you're saying too. I think it is very similar, kind of how we're functioning over here.
Thank you. And thank you for bringing up parents because that is where I wanted to go next. We couldn't have this conversation without making sure we're including our families. Missy, I'm going to be looking to you as we answer this question. I'm curious, have conversations with families shifted when foundational skills are addressed earlier and more consistently?
100%. And I think
Okay.
what we're able to do is show the actual data and show how that translates into uh, spending more time in a gen ed setting with peers. And so just recently we had a meeting and the parents were paying for outside ABA and they brought it to us like, we think we want to end this, but we're worried it's not going to transfer into school. And we said, well, what are they working on there at the clinic? And then we were able to say, oh, he's already able to do that. And he can now sit in a classroom for up to 30 minutes at a time without behaviors. And I think they were really blown away by the data that we had and the things that they were working on in ABA clinic that we were like, oh, he's already mastered that here and he's able to generalize. So I'm not really sure why they're working. So they ended up giving up ABA therapy and just, trusting us to do it with it because the child has made such progress over time. So those kind of conversations where the parents get so excited and then they just see their little one is really improving and being able to have that concrete show of growth that they can see, like, we really see your child, we care for your child, and we're growing your child. And I think that was just a very rewarding conversation to have, and that happened actually just last week pretty much. And I think that's showing them the data and so they can actually see, oh wow, he's able to do this now, they're able to do this now. And then working too with parents to say, how can we increase their independence at home? What are things that we can do and help you as a parent of things that you do at home with your child to increase that stamina and give them tools to work with at home.
Thank you, Missy. I love that. And I just noticed out of the corner of my eye, Amanda Abernathy, who's a longtime partner and friend of ours out of Warren Consolidated, Michigan. What you were saying, Missy, is resonating with Amanda. And I believe earlier in the process, we shared a little success story about Amanda's multi-year journey with Eris as well. So thank you. I mean, yeah, we want to do right by our families and make sure that they're cared for. Okay, so I'm good at playing timekeeper. We are not at the end yet, but we're nudging that direction. And I love to end these large conversations with fun, like rapid fire, like hit me up with your super quick thoughts. I think that's a fun little game to play. So does that sound good for, okay, what's up next? Get ready. Feel like I'm a game show host and I love it. Okay, this first one we're gonna start with Tara. Sound good, Tara? Are you ready? You're gonna be our experimenter of rapid fire game show.
Sure.
How have these changes influenced how your teams think about or approach more restrictive placement options? And if so, how?
Yes, and I was looking at the chat, and Amanda had asked a really great question
whoops. Great.
about preschool
Please.
and how to kind of include students and how can that look. And so it made me think about your question and how we've become more cautious in our placement decisions. Like I said earlier, we definitely we have systems here for our preschool kids where they have to complete referral documents if they want to consider a different program, because we have a general curriculum autism track. We have, of course, programming for our mild to moderate, and then separate programming for our severe profound. But one thing I've noticed is that our teams struggle with that in between. So our kids that really don't fit in a program, but they need that more inclusive. And so what I've really pushed onto our preschool teachers is to please look at ways to provide some consultative support and push our kids into some of our pre-K general classes that are like lottery funded. And I've seen that work really well. It's not perfect. I'm not going to tell you it's perfect, but I think that's been really helpful to make better decisions about placement and really pulling back from that more restrictive placement. It's also because of this curriculum, we've been able to have better baseline data to make those kind of decisions, and then also really push that instructional rigor that I think, because I've only been here 2 years in this school district, I came from a much larger school district, and that was something we were missing. And so that instructional rigor and then being able to use that data to make decisions has been really impactful here. So Amanda, and your comments, I don't know if that's helpful, but that's something that's really worked here.
Thanks, Tara. Josie, same question. How have these changes influenced how your teams think about or approach more restrictive placement options? Rapid fire answer.
Thank you. Yes, I actually was really resonating with something Tara shared earlier about, taking some of the feelings about some of these placement decisions and really thinking through how we have previously operated in a place of more subjectivity and, this is just what I feel like needs to happen, or this is what parents feel like need to happen, honestly, too. So thinking about how this programming and curriculum and coaching have all aligned to give our teachers more confidence in making those decisions. And especially within the building context as well, we've been able to kind of emphasize the fluidity across the continuum of services and get, our teachers and leaders on board with that so that we really are advocating for the least restrictive environment in all our spaces, especially when students are so young.
Thank you. Thank you. We have about 1 minute left, so I'm going to slip in 2 questions. We're going to do super fast answers. If another district wanted to reduce high cost placements through early intervention, what would you advise them to prioritize first? Claire and then Monica.
One thing I referenced earlier was the explosion of our kiddos that are entering Hoover City schools. Last year, we partnered with an outside agency. We were finding so many of our students, just like Missy mentioned, in the Birmingham area, there are so many ABA opportunities for parents, and that was really presenting a hardship for us in the school setting because as students are, we love our BCBAs and we love all those practices, but what happens in a clinic setting is so separate from what happens in the school setting.
Yep.
It's hard to find that balance sometimes. So we started to think proactively and started working to have partnerships to try to bridge the gap. In fact, the program's called the Bridge Program, but we started partnering with them so that we had the same expectations from the outside providers into that school setting. Because in Alabama, a placement outside of a school system can be hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars for just one student. So our thought was to be proactive, is to have the bridge program in place to help us as we transition from that ABA into the school setting and not interfere with that school structure. That has been a very challenging piece for us in Hoover City Schools. And Eris has really played a huge part in helping us be successful because, again, we're talking the same language, we're using all the same resources and developing the same goals for our kiddos. So it's helped reduce the cost. That's one thing that we have done this past year.
And Monica.
I would just offer if a district was, struggling, I would say if your self-contained settings have been, primarily kind of a behavior support space, this is going to really fast track you into making sure that they get away from that and become a structured skill building environment, because that's going to really quickly change a trajectory for your students because, the prevention and placement prevention isn't about just like early screening and all of that. It's just making sure that every classroom, and especially the intensive ones, has access to high quality, systematic instruction. And when you strengthen that internally, placement then really becomes a true decision of need and not a reflection of gaps in your system. So that's what I would offer other districts.
Thank you. And then Missy and Olivia, our final super rapid fire question from a leadership perspective. What has been the most meaningful shift in helping your teams respond earlier and more consistently to student needs across your district?
I think just having structures in place to build that team and shared ownership. So there's collective efficacy, and these are our kids. It's not just this one classroom. Like, if how do we share that and have that shared ownership among all of us so that we are truly moving forward and moving kids. And I would also say, I know Claire focused on partnerships. We partnered with United Ability, and they're in some of these classrooms, and it's been great to pair the assistive technology with the ARIS program and really seeing how a lot of those things are growing. So those community partnerships are great.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you to our panelists for sharing your practical leadership insight today. Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone joining us who is working daily to strengthen support for teachers and their students. We appreciate your leadership and commitment to building stronger systems that allow students to access instruction and truly learn how to learn. A reminder, we will be sending out a recording of this session. We will include links that we have been dropping in the chat throughout, as well as our AI-infused executive summary, which will be fun. We really hope this information resonated with you. And if you think this might be helpful for colleagues in the space, please feel free to share this recording with them. We're also happy to walk alongside you as a thought leader and a thought partner as you face these challenges. After all means all. Thank you again for joining, and we hope you have a beautiful day.